So, although we're not always aware, entering any physical environment affects us physically and psychologically. Scale, pattern, contrast, scent, and even sound leaves us with a sense of irritability or well-being. But color, without a doubt, is the most emotional of the design elements. Sharon, you say some colors ease anxiety while other hues just aggravate it, right?
Absolutely they do, Trace. And I think with so much anxiety in the world right now and around us, why don't we look to the color wheel? Look for those simple ways of easing that and bringing some calm into our space or uplifting ourselves in our homes, right?
Absolutely, I agree. So let's talk a little bit about the different colors and how they make us feel.
Okay, well, let's talk about the 6 main colors first on the color wheel. I've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So that kind of covers the whole spectrum. And we're going to talk about those, and I'm going to kind of make it kind of fun and think about the emotions. So I put some little words together. I'm going to quiz you a little bit, Trace. We're going to think about the words and how we can associate them to particular colors. So I'm going to start with cheerful. Now, is there one of these colors that you think of as cheerful?
Oh, I think yellow is happy and content and cheerful.
Absolutely, Trace. I knew you'd get that one because I know you love yellow and you've got yellow in your home, and it's such a positive, happy, optimistic color, and it really reminds us of the sunshine, and who doesn't want to have the sunshine more in their life, right? So the thing with yellow is, though, it works really well in spaces that are dark and maybe you need to bring a little bit of that sunshine in, but it can also be a little bit too overwhelming. It can actually cause eye fatigue in the really, really bright yellows. So one thing I wanted to point out, I've got Marblehead Gold on the wall, which would work on larger expanses because it's more toned, but just to give you the comparison, this is Banana Yellow, and you can see right away how much brighter that is. So I would keep this one for artwork and accents and furniture, maybe like kitchen appliances and that sort of thing, where you just need little pops of sunshine, but I wouldn't surround yourself with too much of that. So green is a tricky one because there's so many words that I could use for green, right? Like there's serene, there's nature, there's this and that. So I kind of picked one that's a little bit more theoretical because green is actually balanced, and when you think about where green sits on the color wheel, it's right in the middle of yellow and blue, right? Like that's what makes it. So it can either go one way or the other. And when you think about outside, you think about Mother Nature. Mother Nature uses green as a neutral. She doesn't have to use gray or white or black. Green is that neutral because so many other colors can play well with it, and our eyes feel very rested when we look at green. So it's a wonderful color for relaxation and de-stressing, and don't we need a little bit of that right now?
So now let's go to the other side of the spectrum and get stimulated.
Yes.
So I'm thinking red.
Absolutely, Trace. Red is the most stimulating color on the color wheel for sure. So I'm going to put stimulating right there. And what about it is that it is stimulating physically. It's actually one of those colors that we have a physiological response to. So it increases our blood pressure, it increases our heart rate, and it increases our appetites. And people have strong feelings about red, so it's definitely an attention getter. I would say right now, it's probably not the color you want to surround yourself with completely. Have too much of it because it can be a little too aggressive, but you know, the front door or the ceiling or, you know, somewhere where you get some little happy pops of red, it can also be very uplifting and stimulating in a positive way. But while we're talking about red, let's quickly talk about pink. Now, when you think about red and you bring it right down to its lightest value, like a little tint of it, it has a completely different feeling than it does than red does. You have totally different emotions. So I'm going to put nurturing with our pink, because that's the feeling that we tend to get. That's the emotion. People think of delicate when they think of pale pink. But again, if you go to hot pink, you definitely get more of those emotions that are associated with red. So any of the colors, when we're talking about them, you can dial them down, you can tone them down, and you can dial them up, and that'll really change the emotion around the colors. So let's talk about blue, Trace. What do you think of when I say blue?
Creative?
Okay, well that's interesting. Now, creative I'm going to tell you I've got for purple, but There's a lot, obviously there's a lot of similarity. It's okay. I did this with Megan, my daughter, and she didn't get them all right either. So, but there's so many words that we can associate with things, but really serene is what I was thinking of with blue, because it does, like green, it's another one of Mother Nature's neutral. The sky, you think of the sky, you think of calm, and actually blue, like red, has a physiological response for us. So it actually does the opposite to red. It lowers our blood pressure. It calms us down. So it kind of has that effect. But it does actually encourage creative thinking. So blue is a good color to use in an office because it gives you some time to kind of calm down and bring some creativity into your space. But since you mentioned creative, I'll throw that on my purple right there. And when you think about purple, you think of royalty, you think of luxury, but you can also take some of the sides from blue and some of the emotions of red. So it's a very complex color, purple. People tend to either really love it or really hate it. But I think that it's also very creative. It's very artsy, and again, it's because of that complexity in it. But when you take a tone down like a lavender, you know, it's wonderful for bedrooms. Like it can kind of really help you sleep and be calm and tranquil.
Beautiful. Tranquil. Yeah, for sure. Okay, just really quickly, we're out of time, but I want to discuss orange because I think that's another sort of happy color. What word do you have for orange?
Enthusiastic. And orange is enthusiastic, it's playful, it's upbeat. I think we use it a lot in activity and sporting apparel. So it's also a very happy color, like all of the other warm colors as well. And I personally love it. It is definitely one of my favorites.
I love talking about color, and of course you do too. It's your whole world. It's so interesting that I think we should keep going. So let's just bring everybody in now. And I want to know if you have a room in your house with color, and if so, how does it make you feel? And then I'll get Sharon to weigh in on what that might mean for each of us. I'm going to start with Carlin, because Carlin, you are colorful, you are bold, and I love that about you. Is that reflected in your decor? Do you have a favorite room and a favorite color at home?
I do. So the interesting thing about home is that we went for more neutral. So gray is so sexy. It's kind of like my favorite color. So in the main room, we have a very soft gray because it just really calms me down. And there's also another dark gray. And what we do is with accents. I'm drawn to the 4 elements of life. So every time we're thinking about decor color, I always go for those 4 colors. So earth, fire, sun. So, you know, the fuchsia, yes, I love that. Just the pop though, but I always go for the other colors, more sun and the water.
Totally makes sense. I love gray as a neutral as well. Sharon, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think gray has been so popular for so many years because it is the neutral. And as you said, Carlin, you kind of need to bring color into it because gray can also be dreary. So you need to bring hits of color, but it makes that perfect backdrop. And that's why we love it so much. And that's why designers really love it because you can do so much with it.
I'm going to go into Chef Paul's house now because you know, I love the cabinetry behind you. You did a little reno in your kitchen, and man, it's so good. But you tell me what color you want to talk about in your home that energizes you, Paul.
So yeah, everybody knows all about my kitchen, of course, but upstairs and downstairs, I wanted to do something a little bit softer. So speaking of gray, I picked a color called Nimbus Gray, which is a little more on the blue side. It's very soothing. It totally reminds me of like a seaside house, you know, beach house kind of thing. And then I like pops of colors. So I have a big pride flag piece of artwork that a friend of ours painted for us right up on the wall.
Sharon, what do you think of Paul's color choices?
You know what? Nimbus Gray is awesome because, as you said, Paul, it's actually a blue. So the name is kind of deceiving. I've only used it as a blue, but it has the gray in it, so it's kind of calm, it's serene, but it allows you to play so many other colors on top of it, which is awesome.
Bruce, you're a wild card here. I don't know. You could be red, you could be yellow, you could be gray, you could be beige, you could be brown. Like, what is your thing, man?
White.
Oh,
Here's what this may well be my last appearance on Cityline, because after this conversation, I think I deserve to be fired. I am completely oblivious to my surroundings, as you know, or will know now, except for that orange vase behind you. I love it, and it says I'm enthusiastic, which I am.
Yes.
So that's perfect. But here's why everything's white. We bought our new house, and a friend of ours said, just paint everything white. So we paint everything white. For Dennis, my husband, husband, that's like a stop along the journey.
Yeah.
For me, that's the destination. We're done. There is nothing else that needs to happen because it is white and it is done. We're not spending a single dollar. We're not changing a thing.
I bet Bruce has a lot of colorful things. You probably have a lot of texture in your space. And you know, whether if you've got lots of wood and you've got other elements that bring in the warmth or artwork, I think white can be that really great background, because I'd like to think of it as a blank canvas. So there is, you know, there's some symbolism there too. You know, maybe maybe you do bring other things onto it, and you kind of, you know, just bring color in an embracing way in other things. And even just the personality of the inhabitants can bring color into the space. So I think you're definitely not the only one.
Ooh, I like that. I like that analysis. The personality of the inhabitants are the color. That's lovely. I think that's so bang on. Okay, thanks to everyone. I love this. I could talk about this for a long time.